I really going to discuss this on the internet?
A hysteroscopy, an endometrial biopsy, and endometrial ablation. But it's going to be fine. It's going to be fine. It's all going to be fine.
And I was just not expecting this, and the decision felt like quite a big one to make in quite a short space of time.
Hi guys, Rhi here from mummyof4.com. Welcome back to my channel and a bit of a different vlog. In this one, I'm going to be sharing the medical difficulties I have been having over the past few years, actually, my health problems, gynecology type of problems, and the operation that I am due to have. So if you're squeamish about medical stuff, then click off. This isn't the video for you. I won't be offended. But the reason I'm sharing is because I found this whole experience quite kind of difficult and alienating. I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one that suffered like this. And I think raising awareness of health problems that women have to deal with, but are often pushed under the carpet and told, you know, it's just because of your age, just because you had children, whatever, and just kind of fobbed off, which is how I have felt by a lot of health professionals. Anyway, I'm going to start at the very beginning, a very good place to start. I have 4 children. I had secondary infertility, I had polycystic ovaries, and I had Clomid to conceive my second 2 children. And then baby number 4 was a miracle baby. And apparently the only thing you need to fix polycystic ovaries is to get pregnant, which when you're trying to get pregnant is not what you want to hear. Anyway, after baby number 4, my periods came back, I guess, after I stopped breastfeeding. So I stopped breastfeeding. I breastfed her up till she was 2, and then my periods came back. Maybe they came back just towards the end. I can't remember exactly when it was, but you know, when you kind of taper off to just like breastfeeding once a day or something, then they come back. And they were pretty regular, like more regular than they've ever been in my life. I wasn't on any form of contraception because my husband had the snip after baby number 4. I had sepsis and all sorts, and we decided that 4 children was, you know, we were kind of done. Wasn't on any form of hormonal anything. And my periods were just so heavy. Like so heavy that, you know, after you've had a baby and it's just flooding through things, you have to change things every hour, like that. I was using menstrual cup and it was overflowing every hour. So suffice to say, I was feeling drained. It wasn't till, so this was 2019, I guess my periods came back. And then it was during the pandemic, I did actually seek out help from the doctor, just said, I just can't keep going like this. I've got 4 children. I have no energy because once a month I'm having this stupidly heavy period. And I was kind of told it's because of your age. I'm now 39. It's 2023 now. I guess it was 2020 when I was speaking to doctors initially. It's because of your age and it's because you've had children. So does everyone have this? Is it this bad? Anyway, so I did go back. They chased up the referral. I had an ultrasound scan. The people at the ultrasound scan said, look, we can't see anything on the scan. Whatever is wrong with you is not going to show up on a scan. And I have got friends who have had gynecology type problems that have had nothing show up on a scan. And then when they've been opened up in surgery, there's been all sorts of stuff going on. Anyway, back and forth. They tried me on the pill, which I just sort of bled every day. It wasn't as heavy, but it was just all the time. So I tried that for probably 6 months, and then they decided that wasn't the thing. So I had a hospital appointment in the gynecology department. I was explaining, this was a bit worrying actually, I was explaining like how heavy my periods were, and I said, just to give you some sort of context, having to empty a menstrual cup every hour. Slightly worryingly, the female consultant gynecologist said, what's a menstrual cup? And I was like, oh, I'm pretty sure that's, you know, your department and you're female and a human, you should know. But anyway, besides the point, it was a bit worrying though. Anyway, they said they wanted to fit me with an IUD, a coil, the Marina coil, and that went in last July. It's currently July again, so it's been a year. But my periods are still irregular, quite heavy, and quite long. So sometimes they'll be 2 weeks, sometimes 3 weeks. And there's no form of cycle, there's no form of anything showing up. I saw another consultant in person. My file, my hospital file is like this thick because it's all the things that I've ever had done from babies and things. Obviously no one can be expected to read through all that. He just seemed not very understanding. He's like, so you're bleeding then? Like, So, why is that a problem? And I felt very fobbed off by him. He was not good. I felt kind of belittled and a little, what's the term? What's the best, most polite way to put this? Just talked down to. He was like, so your period's a bit heavy then? Like, so what's the big deal? And I did want to say, well, you wouldn't know, would you, not ever having had one? Try and have a little more empathy, but there we go. Anyway, I eventually had a phone call from the lead consultant who said, look, clearly you're feeling very fed up. You've been very fobbed off, and I'm going to have to read this. So he wanted to book me in for a hysteroscopy, an endometrial biopsy, and endometrial ablation. So I'm going in to have that, which is hopefully day surgery. They're going to knock me out. General anaesthetic. I've not had a general anaesthetic before. They're going to have a general anaesthetic, and then they're going to do all that stuff, whatever that is. I did start looking it up, and it made me go all squirmy. Considering Grey's Anatomy is probably my favourite TV show, I think I'm quite squeamish. So I decided to stop reading up on that and just let them put me to sleep and do whatever it is. And yeah, so we're now going to jump back in time, because if you are going to have any of these things, you're probably going to want to know about the pre-op assessments and things like that. So we're going to jump back in time to from earlier in the year to talk you through all of those appointments and pre-op things leading up to the procedure. And hopefully this will answer the question that I get a lot on Insta and things, like what's going on with you. Hopefully this will just be a quite comprehensive what's going on, and for anyone that's having to go through anything similar, hopefully sharing my experience will help in some way. So I've just pulled up and parked at the hospital. I'm going in for my pre-op assessment. A few days ago, so let's see, today's Monday, I think it was Thursday, on the phone, I had my first pre-op assessment where they asked me lots of questions like medical history, ever had any heart problems, or anyone in my family had any heart problems, allergies, things like that. So lots of in-depth like questionnaire type things. I think today's going to be pretty basic. I think they're going to just do height, weight, and maybe bloods. I'm not really sure. So I'm going to go in and I'll report back. Back home now for my pre-op assessment. It was a very generic one. I haven't really learnt anything new about what's actually going to happen. I went to an outpatient department that I think deals with all the pre-op assessments from what I can tell, regardless of which operation you're having or where. So they literally just did height, weight, let me see, blood pressure, blood test, and then I had swabs in my nose, cheek and groin for MRSA. So I think it's just a very generic fit for surgery kind of test. Those results will go back to my consultant. I think when I spoke to my consultant, he said on the phone that a week or two before the date he's penciled me in for surgery, I would actually meet with him and then discuss in more detail about what they would be potentially doing. So I guess we'll just wait until a bit closer to the time. For now, I'm still at that kind of stage of, do I want this, or will my period settle down? Because he did say that if everything's settled down, by the time scheduled surgery comes around, I don't have to have it. But then I keep thinking, oh, maybe it's going to settle down, and it really hasn't yet, has it? I don't know. We'll just wait to see what's happening nearer the time. Because obviously I want this fixed, but then the surgery makes me a bit nervous as well. I'm a dither at the best of times when it comes to making decisions. So I'm tracking my periods when I am having periods, when I'm not having periods. I'm just going to have to base the decision on the data. It was after we got back from Alton's house. So we got back, and then my husband had COVID. He had actual COVID and was quite poorly for a few days. And then I got it, actual COVID. So let me see, I got flu the very end of February and then COVID the very beginning of April. And they were going to do this op. This was supposed to be on the Friday the children were back in school. So I guess 2 weeks after Good Friday, I tested positive for COVID. I think it was a week before that I was supposed to go in for the op. So I phoned to say, look, what do I do? I'm assuming you don't want me there because you don't want me spreading germs. And can you give my slot to someone else? And then can I postpone the operation? And they said, no, you can't have the operation. That's fine. And thank you for phoning. They were really grateful. I'd phoned to give the slot away. But basically, I was not then allowed to have that operation. So the time hasn't lapsed yet. You can't have an operation, apparently, didn't know this, for 7 weeks after having COVID. because you might have breathing difficulties or something, which obviously is something I don't want. So that operation, which was supposed to be on the Friday, and I was supposed to be having the op Friday, and then Saturday, Sunday, Monday was like supposed to be bed rest, wasn't allowed to drive. And then we had this family wedding on the Monday, which I was supposed to be on bed rest. So I guess it all sort of worked out okay. I mean, I haven't had my op, so I haven't had my problems resolved, but I would have been supposed to be on bed rest and then dragging myself along to this family wedding, and we went, and anyway, that was lovely. So I just went for my second pre-op assessment because one was just not enough. Basically, I had my first pre-op assessment and they last 6 months. They give you 6 months of leeway to have an operation. And they do bloods, they do blood pressure, and they do swabs for MRSA. Now, the swabs for MRSA last 6 months, which seems kind of insane because, you know, what if you come into contact with MRSA over the 5.5 months while you're waiting for your op? Beside the point. Anyway, the swabs last 6 months. My pre-op assessment expires 3 days before my operation is scheduled to go ahead. So I had to have the pre-op assessment again. They didn't want to do bloods again. They did my blood pressure again, and they did the swabs again, which are up your nose, in your cheek, and on your bikini line. And that's it. It was really, really quick, in and out. So I guess that means we are good to go for the operation in July. Well, tomorrow is the day of the op. I am feeling more anxious than I should because I'm fully aware that this is a pretty routine procedure. It's low risk. It's going to make me feel better, and it's the right thing to do. I'm fully aware of that. My conscious, sensible brain is aware of that, but my kind of underlying stories, I guess, if I unpick it, are that I've not felt safe and cared for in hospital. I think this probably comes from way back. It's like most things stem back to childhood. When I was 7, my mum had eclampsia and kidney failure and things after having my younger sister, and I remember that being a really scary time. So I kind of decided at the age of 7 that having babies in childbirth was dangerous. This was the story I had. And then when I went in to have my own children, I think there was a level of anxiety that I wasn't even aware of at the time as being more anxiety than I should have had. So each of those experiences, I think, should have been a lot more pleasant and a lot calmer. And then I think perhaps I was looking for the negatives in the situation because I had this preconceived notion that it was dangerous and worrying time. So I've probably got this pretty negative association with hospital for those reasons. So when I unpick it, I can understand why I'm feeling anxious, and I can tell myself there's no need for it. So that's what I'm going to choose to do. I'm going to choose to feel safe and cared for, and everything's going to be fine. I've not had a general anesthetic before. But it's going to be fine. It's going to be fine. It's all going to be fine. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to pack a little bag. It's supposed to be a day surgery. I'm supposed to be out by tomorrow night, so fingers crossed that's the case. But I am going to pack an overnight bag. They've asked me to do that just in case, with some toiletries and bits in it. So I'm just going to show you what I'm popping in my bag before I go. It's all going to be fine. I don't know why I'm feeling all whatever, something. I'll just be glad when I'm home it's done. So this is all the stuff that I'm going to chuck into this bag. So first of all, I'm just going to wear black stuff because, well, I just thought it's easier to just stick with one colour and throw a few bits in. So I've just got the underwear I just need to stick on in the morning, a pair of my comfiest leggings. I've actually got the same leggings on today in navy. They have pockets, so that makes me happy. But I've just got leggings and a plain t-shirt to wear. I've also dug out a big, snuggly, really long jumper because a lot of people said it might be cold when I wake up from the anesthetic. And then I've got tissues, sanitizer, and makeup wipes, because then a lot of people recommended wet wipes for freshening up, so I figured why not makeup wipes. Toothbrush, toothpaste, and a hand towel because I'm only going to be in hopefully for the day, so hopefully I won't need to shower there, but I might want to clean my teeth. They might let me clean my teeth even if I can't drink, not sure. Checking that when I get there, but fingers crossed. Then I've just got some toiletries in here, deodorant and bits. I've got some period pants, but also maternity pads because apparently I'm going to need those. Yay. Socks. I think I'm going to wear flip-flops, but those I'm going to pack in case I want them when I get there. And then I've just got a change of clothes. These are like yoga pants, so they are a bit looser than the leggings I'm going to wear in. And I've also got shorts because sometimes hospitals are boiling, and one of these little tops that I sleep in that's like got a little bit of support. It's not quite a bra, it's not quite a top, somewhere in the middle. I've got my chili bottle, which I'm going to fill up with just cold water. So if I am allowed to hydrate, I've got to have no fluids from 6:30. I'm going in at 7:30. But if I'm on the list later in the day, they might let me drink some clear fluid. So I'm going to have water in case I'm allowed that. And when I come around with the anesthetic, I figure I'm really going to have to rehydrate. I figured something with electrolytes in it might do the trick. So that's why I've got that. And I've got a whole load of protein bars because I will probably be starving and I don't know what I'll fancy. So I've got a few of those. I need to add in my phone and my iPad. I've got my AirPods, a charger plug, a charger for my phone and for my iPad. And this is a charger pack. So if I can't reach the wall for the charger, this is really handy. It's just like a little charger. Let me see, like that. And that does a few charges. It's really good. And that is pretty much it, I think. I have got lip balms in here. I've got Vaseline. A lot of people said I'll have very dry lips. So I have got those things and face creams and things for when I'm just feeling a bit gross and gunky. I think I'll just chuck all that in that bag along with my iPhone and iPad. And that's it. So it's no food after midnight, which is fine. I wouldn't eat after midnight anyway. So it's just a case of skipping breakfast. That's not that big a deal. I don't eat loads in the mornings. The one I am concerned about though is fluids. I always drink so much. I drink buckets, especially in the mornings. So I'm going to feel really, really thirsty, which feels uncomfortable, which I think is linked back to, you know, when you're breastfeeding and you get that feeling of like, dry mouth. And it's horrible as soon as your baby latches on. I think I just hate that feeling, which is why I always really hydrate a lot. So yeah, that's my biggest concern, really, being thirsty. It's a bit silly, isn't it? Right, I'm going to chuck all this stuff in the bag and then just bring it on tomorrow. I have downloaded loads of stuff to watch on my phone. I'm going to try and treat it as a, yay, let's spend this time relaxing and watching stuff on my phone, and isn't that a treat? I'm supposed to rest for 3 days afterwards. No driving. Supposed to be like, you know, proper resting. I'm not very good at that. So let's see how we do. Okay, today's the day. I've taken off all my jewellery. Oh, I need to take my watch off actually. Got my bag packed. Feeling just really nervous. Probably unnecessarily. I just need to reframe. Think of it as a spa day, a relaxing day to watch the Sex and the City. It's cool. And just like that, I'm going to catch up on that. That's my plan. I'm not going to think about it. I have drunk absolutely bucket loads this morning because I'm only allowed to drink water up till 6:30. It's now 6:36, so no more. I haven't had any food this morning. I wasn't allowed any food since midnight. But they said if I hydrate prior to when I've got to stop drinking, if I hydrate over the few days leading up to it, my recovery will be better. So fingers crossed that works. My auntie's going to drop me in now. My husband's home with the children today. I am home. Oh, but I've got to be honest, I am feeling pretty rough, so I will pick up the camera and explain properly when my brain's feeling less foggy. Day after the operation, I've come back up to bed because I'm supposed to be resting. I've probably done it a little bit. I haven't even done that much. I have had a shower. I went downstairs. My husband is telling me to rest, but I did put a bit of washing on. I've really not done that much, but honestly, I'm so wiped out now. And in fact, this morning I did go back to sleep, which is just so unlike me. Good news is the pain isn't nearly as bad as yesterday. Yesterday, I will admit the pain was reminiscent of early labour. It's definitely eased up loads today. I do feel like I've bruised my back, I guess, where the spinal went in. That's not that big a deal. My biggest thing is I'm just very, very tired. I've got a headache. I'm a bit short of breath and just really low on energy.
Okay, let's go. So what's your joke?
But for a positive note, I thought there'd be loads of bleeding.
Remove your joker and then the swap cards.
It's just still feeling a bit foggy.
I'll say have a joke.
I'm not going to attempt to explain everything that happened now. I'm just too washed out and drained. I will pick up the camera in a couple of days' time when I am feeling just a bit more with it. And I'm hopefully going to make a bit more sense.
So it is Tuesday. The op was on Friday. So that's Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, 4 days after the op. And I'm delighted to report that I'm finally feeling like myself again. I wasn't allowed to drive for the 3 days after the op. And I'm going to be honest, I kind of needed those 3 days. I wasn't expecting to feel quite as wiped out as I did feel, but I'm back. So I couldn't fill you in when I got home because I just felt so out of it, and obviously filming in the hospital wasn't really the right thing to do. So I am going to try and explain everything that happened, and hopefully it will be helpful to some of you. So I woke up at 5:30 on the morning of the op to drink as much in the way of fluids as I could. No more fluids from 6:30. I had to be in at 7:30. I checked into the ward. They gave me my hospital bracelet and a bed. I had my obs done, which were temperature. They did my temperature quite a few times actually. They did that before they even let me on the ward. My blood pressure, the little thing on my finger, oxygen saturation, I think, which is why I couldn't have nails. I couldn't have any gel nails because I think that's why anyway, for the oxygen saturation checker thingy. So after this, I was told I was third on the list for the day and my op was likely to be after lunch. And for now, still no more fluids, no more food. Then I saw the anaesthetist. Are they called an anesthesiologist? Anaesthetist? Anesthesiologist? I'm assuming both are correct. Anyone with more knowledge than me, please let me know down in the comments. And he gave me an option. And I was just not expecting this, and the decision felt like quite a big one to make in quite a short space of time. He said that obviously I could have the general anaesthetic, which is what I was told I was going to have, but he then also gave me the option of a spinal. So an epidural, like you'd have if you were in labour and you'd ask for one, or if you were having a cesarean, with a spinal block, so I wouldn't be able to feel anything from the waist down, but I'd have to be awake. Now, I was all geared up to have this general anaesthetic, although I was a little nervous about this because I hadn't had one before, and I was a little, not massively worried, but knowing I was knowing it was going to be very uncomfortable when I woke up. I was going to have very sore throat from having tube down my throat, that kind of stuff. And obviously, I don't know, just if you haven't had one before, you don't know how you're going to react to it. So what he said was that it was going to be much safer for me to have the spinal and to be awake. So as soon as he said it's much, much safer, I felt like I didn't really have any other choice. And obviously, if you're going in for this kind of thing, then absolutely it's your choice. It's your body, it's your choice. I just personally felt, I just felt like guilt, like, I'm a mum, I need to choose the safer option. So I felt personally like I didn't really have a choice. And as soon as I heard that, I had to choose the spinal. That's just how I felt in the moment. Maybe I would have felt different if I'd had more time to think about it. And what I would say is if you were going in for a similar procedure, please do ask on the phone or at any prior appointments, are you going to be offered the option of a spinal or a general, so that you've got that chance to think about it logically, maybe discuss it with your partner, husband, significant other, whoever. Because I felt like I had to make this decision sitting there on my own. Whereas perhaps it's something that I should have discussed with my husband. We should have made that decision. I don't know. It's something that I felt needed more time to think about. But then I'm horribly indecisive. I'm a Libra. I weigh everything up. So maybe it was best that I was just make a decision on the day. Perhaps it's something I would have panicked over. He did say he'd give me a really good sedative because obviously with the being awake, I was quite nervous about lying there for a really long time. I've never had a cesarean or anything like that, but I think if you have a cesarean, you have someone with you, whereas just to be awake that whole time. And then I did ask initially, would I be allowed an audiobook on headphones? Because obviously that's something that you can have often when you're having a spinal. He wasn't sure. He was thinking maybe no, but he had to go and check. So I'd made this decision. I'm going to have this spinal. Made this decision very, very quickly just while he was sitting there in front of me. He said, look, I have to give you this list of complications that may happen. He said that he's had a very long career and he has never had any of these complications in his theatre at all. So he read off all the, paralysis and all the scary things, but he said he's never actually seen any of them firsthand, which was comforting. He said, look, I've been doing this a long time. I'm very good at my job. I will give you a very nice sedative. I said, to make sure it's a very nice one, please. And I've got to admit, I thought I would still be very alert, and I thought that during the procedure I would have to sort of go back to all the rainbow breathing and the hypnobirthing stuff I used when I was in labour to keep me calm. I thought, right, it's fine, I got through labour, I'll just do that. Then I asked the anaesthetist, could I at least go back to drinking clear fluids because I wasn't going to be till after lunch, and he said, yes, that's fine, sips of clear fluids until 11. So the registrar came round, talked me through the actual procedure, which was the hysteroscopy, which is a camera that they insert, have a little look at what's going on. They were going to take a biopsy of the inside of my womb to find out what's going on, why I'm bleeding so much. And then they were going to do the endometrial ablation, which is kind of grim. I did give you a warning, but if you want to skip this bit, it's a bit ugh. So they were going to inflate my womb and then stick this thing in. I thought they were going to go round and sear all the inside of it, manually. But no, they stick this thing in. Sort of, she said it was kind of like searing the top of a steak is what they were going to do to the lining of my womb, but almost like in a microwave kind of way, in that would all happen at once. So I was just like, okay, we just won't think about that right now. So then it transpires that the lead consultant who was supposed to be doing my procedure was off sick, and a load of people got sent home, and the registrar came in to see me and said, right, you're going to be bumped to number 2 on the list, you're not going to be sent home. And I said, thank you so much, because I forgot to mention this earlier, when I left the house, the girls were very upset in the morning. I'd really tried to be very mellow and everything's fine. I was just, going for a few hours and I'll be back. I was trying to be very blasé about it, but also I was trying to be honest. So I told them I was going to the hospital to have something in my tummy fixed. Something that wasn't making me really, really ill. They said, because Mummy, you're not ill. I said, no, it's not making me ill that you'd notice, but it's just affecting Mummy's energy. And by having this fixed, then I'm going to feel better. I'm going to find it easier to be your mummy and have energy. Anyway, so I said to the registrar, thank you so, so much for not sending me home, because all that upset I went through with the girls, I would hate to have to do that all again, go home, not having had the procedure and start all that again. And she said, no, that's kind of one of the reasons you're not being sent back. So I was just like, oh, thank you so much. Anyway, moved to second on the list, told obviously no more water because you've been moved up. I was given a hospital gown, which you wear absolutely nothing underneath, a backless little number, but also an underwear-less little number, some hospital stockings, very high fashion, compression stockings to stop clots, and then I was put onto a hospital bed and wheeled to theatre. They did check, was I allowed to have an audiobook? And they said yes. So luckily I had my AirPods with me, and I have always got audiobooks downloaded to my phone. I decided I didn't want something personal development-y. I wanted something mindless. So I opted for a fiction audiobook that I was halfway through anyway, which was The Queen Charlotte from the Bridgerton series. It's literally the book that follows the series. No, most of the Bridgerton books are the book first and then the series. I think these two were written at the same time. So I'd already seen the series. Perfectly mindless. I kind of knew what was happening anyway, but it was going to be enough to distract me. Perfect, exactly what I needed. So we went into reception area theatre, went through my notes and things. Gave me a very sexy blue hat thing, like a blue shower cap to put on my head. That was lovely. And then wheeled me through to this kind of waiting area before the theatre, where they checked my hospital bracelet. They check your hospital bracelet with you. They ask you for your name, your date of birth, your address, all the time, over and over and over. I just was waiting to get it wrong, I was being tested, when you fail those humanity tests, are you a human online, and which bit to the lamppost. I always get those wrong. I was just waiting to get some of this wrong. Anyway, past all that, they let me go in. They did actually ask me for my hospital number, sort of as a joke. I think she one of the nurses does it as like an icebreaker, like, oh, on your hospital number, and everyone goes, oh, I don't know that, and they're like, no, don't worry, we're only joking. I actually knew mine because I'd been in so many times with the children. Bizarrely, it just rolled off my tongue. She's like, oh, not many people know that. Anyway, into theatre. They moved me on to the theatre bed. They asked me to sit with my legs over the edge and sprayed my back with something very cold, local anaesthetic. And then the bit that I was a bit nervous about, because I don't like spines, don't like them at all, I had to kind of hunch over a little bit to expose my spine while he injected into my spine. So it's just like la 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 la, not thinking about it, la 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 la, listening to Bridgerton. Then they moved me, swivel me around to lie down, and quite quickly I started losing sensation in my legs. And then the consultant held his hand above my foot and said, right, I need you to touch my hand with your right foot. And I was like, could not do it. It was very frustrating. I knew that was the idea. I knew that had meant that the medication had worked. But anyway, I was very frustrated that I couldn't do it. I also had a cannula thing in my arm where they administered the sedation, which, by the way, really did its job. I felt so mellow. Just, it was like very spacey. I was very chilled. I was kind of closing my eyes, drifting. I was not bothered at all by what they were doing. The sedative really did its job. So if you are worried about having something done under sedation, you think you're going to be all up in your head like I thought I was going to be, you won't. You won't care. If they let you have an audiobook and decent sedation, you'll be fine. I was absolutely fine. I didn't care at all. So I had a screen up so I couldn't see what they were doing. I was aware it was very busy. It was very bright in there. Not like Grey's Anatomy at all, but as the doctors pointed out, they like to be able to see what they are doing when they're actually doing surgery, which is probably for the best. So yes, it was very bright. Yes, it was very busy. And there was someone by my head kind of filling me in on what was going on. So they did the hysteroscopy with the camera. So they found a polyp and they removed it and they've sent it away to do a biopsy. And apparently that's likely been the source of all the bleeding. So from what I understand, a polyp isn't anything dangerous as such, but it can cause all these symptoms like bleeding. It can cause infertility. So it was just in there. It hadn't been picked up by the scans. It's probably been the source of all my troubles and they took it away. So as the guy sitting next to my head said, he said, oh, they've seem to have found this polyp. They seem to be quite pleased. They seem to think it's all been a success. So then they did all the endometrial ablation and things. I do remember one of the nurses saying to me that you probably won't remember all of this. And although I remember her saying that, she's probably right in that I don't remember the whole procedure. I do not, which is probably why it's good that I had an audiobook of something that I already knew kind of what's going on, because I didn't miss anything important. So they kind of had to slide me. It took 4 of them to move from one bed to another so they could move me out of theatre, and they took me to recovery where I stayed for quite some time. At this point, I was feeling very cold. They were taking my temperature a lot. They were doing my obs. I was feeling very cold. They brought me extra blankets. A lot of you in the comments over on Instagram and DMs and things did say you're likely to feel cold after anaesthetic, and you were right. I felt very cold, but I couldn't move at all. As the feeling was very slowly coming back to my legs, even though I couldn't move them, as someone was physically moving my legs, it was that feeling. Have you ever felt after exercise, kind of your legs, the muscles in your legs kind of firing? Does anyone know what I mean? Because I've asked some people in my real life and they have no idea what I'm talking about. But the only other way I can describe it is like if you've ever had popping candy, that feeling in your mouth, it was kind of like that all down my legs. Very odd. So they showed me in recovery these pictures of before with the polyp and then my uterus afterwards, after the endometrial ablation. I've got to be honest with you, all of the pictures just kind of looked like photos of the surface of Mars to me, but then I could barely even make out the sonogram pictures when they're showing you an actual baby going, there's a foot, there's an arm. And I'm like, really? Where? It's like a magic eye, like you've got to squint a bit to see it. I've never been good at reading those things, but it was nice to know that there was a before and after, and I'm just glad that they found something that they could fix. They didn't find anything sinister. They just found something that was likely the source of the problem. So I'm just thrilled that having gone through all this, it's probably actually going to make me better and make such a massive difference. So I was in recovery, and then when they were happy enough with me there, they wheeled me back to the ward and then had to use one of those board things and slide me onto the ward bed. I was still pretty mellow when I was heading back to the ward. One of the other patients on the ward later on said that I did look white as a sheet when I was wheeled back and I had more colour by the time I went home, which probably sounds about right. Obviously, if you've been through something like that, you're going to look a bit drained of everything. I was cold and sedated and all sorts, so I guess it was expected that I didn't have any colour in my cheeks. I do remember my teeth chattering a little bit. I was really that cold, but they weren't terribly worried about my temperature going dangerously low. They were keeping a good eye on that and taking my temperature regularly. So by the time I got back to the ward, I couldn't even wiggle my toes. Just couldn't make myself do it. Very frustrating. I like to be in control of my own body, and I get very frustrated when my body won't do what I want it to do, like get better or wiggle my toes after an anaesthetic. I know saying that out loud sounds ridiculous, but hey, that's just how I get. Eventually I managed to stand up with a bit of help and go to the toilet. I didn't feel the need to go to the toilet, which is really weird for me because I always need a wee. But they did say that I wasn't allowed to go home till I'd been to the toilet, so I was like, come on then, let's go. They walked me down the corridor and I was honestly like, I really don't need to go, but I'll try. And I really needed a big wee, but apparently this is one of the things after a spinal that you don't have that urge to go to the toilet because the sensation for that is blocked. So that's why they encourage you and they don't let you out until you've been to the toilet, because you may not realise that you need to go, and that can cause other issues with a very full bladder that you're not emptying. So I had to wait for 4 to 6 hours after coming out of surgery and to be signed off by the doctor in order to be able to leave. The children were upset and wanted to come and see me, so they weren't allowed on the ward. I had to go just outside the ward, so I kind of hobbled to just outside the doors. I was in a fair amount of pain by this point. I am going to be honest with you. It was about 4:30, I guess. I'd been into theatre about 11:30. By 4:30, so I was walking. I was in what I can best describe as early labour pain. So a lot of pain through my torso and kind of shooting up my back and down my legs. So I was trying to concentrate really hard on talking to the children who were sitting on this chair, but I was in a lot of pain. The children were upset. They wanted to take me home right then. I was trying to be like, yay, my poppins. Really trying to do my best, but it was very upsetting because they were upset. Anyway, my husband went to take them home. I was eventually signed off by the doctor and I was allowed to go home. My husband was already home with the children, so my auntie, who'd driven me in the morning because it was quite early and the children were still in pyjamas, my auntie actually came to pick me up and take me back. So she's very lovely and very lucky to have her. She's basically my mum. So at home, I was in a fair amount of pain and I did go to bed quite early. I'd had paracetamol through the day intravenously. They actually gave me Oromorph on the ward as well, but it didn't really do much for the pain. I found I was in a fair amount of discomfort, let's just say that. It was not the best, but if it's fixed me, it was worth it all. The following day, I was still really spaced. So Saturday and Sunday, I was still quite spaced, but the pain, luckily, had eased off a lot. So I was in pain Friday night and through the night quite a lot, but by the time I got up on Saturday, it wasn't nearly as bad. And by Sunday, it was gone, other than some sort of discomfort on my back. But I was just feeling totally wiped out. And then on Monday, when I thought I'd feel a lot better, am I really going to discuss this on the internet? Yes, I suppose in the interest of sharing the right information, I better had. I was just basically really, really constipated, and that was very unpleasant. But when that resolved itself, by the time I went to bed, I still went to bed just not feeling quite right and feeling really, really washed out. But I'm delighted to report that I woke up this morning, it's Tuesday morning, feeling just a lot more like myself. I even got up and did some yoga and Pilates because I think part of the reason I was feeling just a little bit pants was that I haven't been moving my body, and that is not what I normally do. Normally I am quite active, and that is part of what makes me feel like my body is functioning well. The 3 days that they gave me where I shouldn't drive were probably about accurate, to be honest. During that time, I wasn't allowed to drive, sign legal documents, cook. There was a whole list of things I wasn't supposed to do. Basically, post-operation, that you just may cause an accident or an incident or do something that you're not quite supposed to be doing because you're not quite with it. And yeah, those 3 days I think I did need to recover. And I'm feeling great now. The bleeding, down below, that they said could last up to 4 weeks has just about stopped now, which is less bleeding than I'd normally have. So I would say that for me, so far at this stage, this has been a huge success. They found something that they couldn't find from scans or whatever else. They have taken it away, and hopefully now I'm going to feel a lot better. I'm not going to be bleeding all the time. I'm not going to be drained. And I'm hoping that that is just going to really, really improve my quality of life. I've had so many messages from people saying, oh, I've had similar, I don't know what to do. And honestly, I was so fobbed off for so long. I was told, yeah, it's your age, yeah, it's because you've had children, when I was 37, 38 years old. That's not old. That is not old. That's not something you should just have to put up with. It's just, I think this kind of women's troubles seems to be kind of a little fobbed off by the medical community in some cases, not in all cases. I'm sure some take it very seriously, but I've had a lot of experience of being fobbed off. I know a lot of you have too. And then also I think as women, we think, oh, it's just women's problems. We should just shut up and get on with it. And that's not the case. If you really are suffering, then please do speak to your GP. And if you're not happy, speak to somebody else, because I could have just been like, oh, well, this is how it is, and carried on suffering. And it has been a heck of a fight, but hopefully we've got the source of the problem. And I know it's very easy to fight for our children and not so easy to fight for ourselves. But ultimately, if we are healthy, then we can be the best we can be for our children. So if you can't bring yourself to find the energy to do it for yourself, do it for your family. So I hope that has helped some of you that may be in a similar situation. And if not, I hope it has answered some questions that some of you have had. If it's just been, what's going on with you, Ree? That's what's been going on with me. So I will report back in future vlogs as to how I'm doing, whether it's worked. But let's keep our fingers crossed. So thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, do all those YouTubey things. If you want some more early release videos from me, you want to see some things that aren't out yet, some exclusive stuff, check out my Patreon. You can watch another video on screen that YouTube thinks you may like. And I'll see you there.